Hello and welcome to this edition of Africa This Week, your wrap of what happened across the continent. I'm BRONWYN SEABORNE. In this part of the program, we look at Mali's risk profile after the coup. Then we talk trade and industry in Botswana, as well as partnerships to fight corruption in business in Nigeria. Renegade soldiers in Mali declared on state television that they had seized power in the West African state in protest at the government's failure to quell a nomad-led rebellion in the north. Anglo Gold Ashanti, Rand Gold, IAM Gold and Resolute Mining operate in the country. We discussed the country's risk profile with Samir Gadio, emerging market strategist at Standard Bank.
Tensions had been rising in recent weeks. There were protests and some discontent in the military because of the way the war in the north was handled. But obviously no one really expected that the military coup would take place and end 2 decades of civilian rule and a quite successful democratic experience in Africa. I mean, having said that, the impact is likely to be relatively limited because Mali doesn't have its own currency. It uses the CFA franc, which is pegged to the euro, so there won't be any impact on the exchange rate side. It doesn't have any listed equities. The telecoms company Sotelma was going to be listed on the BRVM in a few months. That might be potentially delayed, so it's something that the market will be watching. The local currency bonds are very illiquid, so they're not going to react. I think most of the reaction has been on the mining side, so basically the stocks of the gold mining companies operating in Mali have reacted sharply. We've seen Rand Gold losing something like 13–14% today. Same with Avian Gold, Avenil Gold, etc. So quite a sharp impact at that level.
Absolutely. So the miners and investors globally have been spooked by this development. But in terms of policy changes from this change in government, what are you expecting?
Well, it's very early to tell, quite frankly. We don't even really know who's going to be in charge per se. The new authorities have said that they want to set up a government of national unity, which would lead the country to new elections.
They will always say that one day.
The irony here...
They will always say
yes, and the irony here is that actually... The irony is that a presidential election was actually scheduled for April, and the current president, Toumani Touré, was not going to stand because he served 2 terms. But my feeling is that they're not going to make any substantial policy changes in the short term. So to some extent, foreign investors should probably not be worried per se about policy changes, but it's the security situation on the ground that could be a concern. As you know, there is still a civil war going on in the north, and the rebels are now ready to move further south, so it could be an issue.
Yeah, and certainly from a mining perspective, the CEO of Rand Gold was in Mali today, and they issued a statement saying the mines were operating normally and they didn't see much change. But perhaps, Samir, before we go, just give us a quick summary of why we should care about Mali. Why should the investor community care about Mali?
Well, you see, Mali in itself is a poor landlocked country. So obviously, you know, you could argue that it's not that important. But having said that, it's one of the first countries which initiated the democratic process in Africa in the early 90s. So after the 1991 revolution, they held a free and fair election in 92, which frankly was an example across the board. Now, if you assume that it's all right to overthrow a democratic regime and seize power by force, then obviously you give the wrong signal to other people in other countries who might also try the same thing. So the response of the international community in coming hours is likely to be critical. I mean, we've seen France, the AU, Nigeria condemn the coup d'etat, but let's see how far they're ready to go.
Botswana's Minister of Trade and Industry, Dorcas Makgatho-Molesu, was in Johannesburg this week, punting the investment case for Southern Africa's most established democracy. She spoke to Godfrey Mutizwa. Let's take a look.
I was heading my team to try and sell opportunities for investment in Botswana.
Right.
Specifically, we are looking at investment in the financial services sector.
Did you find some money?
Certainly. I'm excited.
Please tell us.
And I'm saying that purely and simply because post the mission, we had one-on-one meetings where now you sit intimately with those that will be interested, where you actually, in a way, almost sign a deal, or you do that which is necessary for you to make sure that it actually actualized. So I had at least 4 meetings this afternoon one-on-one with business, so I'm excited.
Why financial services?
Well, it's financial services today, but it's many other things.
Sure.
Because, as you know, our economy is largely dependent on mineral revenue. And we are on an intensified route to actually diversify our economy, not necessarily away from diamonds, but to reduce the over-dependence on the mineral sector. So we're doing it at many levels. We're doing it at beneficiation level, value addition. I'm sure you know that we are getting the Diamond Trading Center moving into Botswana. That means downstream economies. Within that, we are basically looking at our coal reserves, which are in excess of 200 billion tons, and we are saying, what are we going to do about them? We have a coal roadmap. We've got many others, and manufacturing certainly is one of those. But financial services, to be precise, it's much easier, in my view, compared to manufacturing. It's less dependent on others. So it is dependent on that which we are known to have been very good at, which is governance, the strength and have we managed our economy to grow it to the levels, to sustain ourselves through the time when everyone else was struggling. And therefore, we believe that given the amount of South African business interest, with particular reference to the financial services sector, it is a good place to be at. And we are also preaching to some who are already converted. We're able to come with some businesses that are already in Botswana that were able to have intimate conversations with others to say this is what happens. Certainly for them to be able to tell others that which I can't tell them.
Can you give us some names?
No.
Why not?
These are intimate discussions.
But this is supposed. I want to break news. Remember, the reason why I'm interviewing you is because I want news that nobody else has.
No. We need to sign on the dotted line.
Okay. Amongst those who came and talked to you, what kind of responses did you get?
The responses really were largely to try and find out what is it that they need to do for them to be able to actualize their investments. What is it that government has in plan for them? A lot of it has to do with the security of their investments, the outlook, the economic outlook, what we are doing as government to make sure that we are competitive enough, to make sure that there are no surprises. So I was able to talk to them about the government view, our creation of centers of excellence to create focus in a variety of sectors, for us to really give them assurance that we are in business.
Nigeria says the time has come to raise the level of war against corruption through private-public partnerships if it is to achieve its aim of being among the top 20 economies in the world by the year 2020. Umo Ibrahim spoke to Frank NWEKE from the Nigerian Economic Summit Group.
Corruption is a very important problem in Nigeria, and I dare say that any country that is indeed serious of pursuing very vigorous development, especially one as ambitious as Nigeria's Vision 2020, would have to tackle a matter like corruption in a very vigorous manner. Okay? Because what is happening clearly is that you are misapplying your resources. Individuals, public and private, are taking resources which should otherwise have been channeled to the development of the country and applying them to either personal use or to uses other than that, other than the welfare and the well-being of the Nigerian people. So I agree with you completely. And therefore, I can conclude by saying that unless we actually deal with this issue of corruption, the leakages in Nigeria's public sector and private sector, I do not really see how Nigeria can achieve its vision of becoming one of the 20 largest economies by the year 2020.
The perception about Nigeria being among the most corrupt countries in the world, I believe, have an impact on the image of the country. This will impact negatively on foreign direct investment into the economy. How far do you agree to this?
I mean, naturally, people prefer to go to places or destinations where they believe that the operating environment is more friendly. Okay, a man by nature, and businesses, I dare say, actually like to toe the path of least resistance. Nobody wants to. The only reason why you jump out of this window here is if your life is threatened and that's the only option you have. But if you have the option of taking an elevator or taking a stairway, of course you would do it. What am I saying? That of course, if I find the business environment in Nigeria to be conducive, naturally I want to come here. Okay, but having said that, one cannot fail to point out the size of Nigeria's market. Okay, the size of this economy, the size of our population. Okay, and therefore say that both the private and public sectors will have to continue to work to see how we can make the operating environment more friendly and therefore conducive for the kind of investments that we've been pushing for from all levels of our society in recent times in particular.